right, after kicking off her media blitz this week on the Call Her Daddy podcast, Vice President Harris will be doing several more interviews with some friendly faces in the media. After her 60 Minutes interview airs tonight, she will sit down with The View, Howard Stern, and Stephen Colbert tomorrow, and will also hold a Univision town hall on Thursday. Sorry, Todd, I thought that was your read.
Quite a buildup. Joe Concho is a Fox News contributor, and Joe joins us now. Joe, Kamala says she's just doing these softballs because she wants to take this opportunity, in her words, not mine, to just be real. Your response?
Well, let's be clear. These are being advertised as interviews, Todd. These are campaign ads for the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign. I mean, Kamala is going on Colbert, who will have the massage oils ready to go, clearly. It's the MSNBC of late night, let's face it. Then she's going on Howard Stern. And I used to love Howard. I said several times on this network, albeit 10 years ago, that he was by far the best interviewer in the game. But this version of Howard, 2024, is everything he used to rail against: a phony, a suck-up, an elitist. But worst of all, he's as predictable as Stephen Colbert. So whatever is left of Howard's audience at this point won't change one vote. And finally, Kamala Harris is going to go on The View. That show was somewhat interesting when Meghan McCain was there to offer up some tough questions to anyone with a D next to their name. Now it's the most comfortable place for any Democrat to be. So this is not a media blitz. It's an affirmation to stay in a safe space, even on 60 Minutes. This is not Mike Wallace's 60 Minutes anymore. It's some other version that only supports Democrats. It's a safe space while pretending you're taking questions and being held to account on your record. And Kamala Harris's answers will be all salt and no tequila, all bubbles and no bath. It doesn't change one thing. It's a bad strategy. I'm sorry. Go on this network or do a press conference if you want to actually change some votes. Carly.
Welcome to Infantry-Mindset, where we don't make excuses, we just do it. You got to get your daily dose of this bald guy, aka the babbler. As I'm getting older, I start to realize, man, I need to make an impression on the world. Sometimes we have hidden things that we don't know, qualities that we don't know about ourselves that other people might gravitate to. I always had good conversations. I mean, I could talk to anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in, politics aside, or we can talk about politics. I can make a connection because I genuinely care about people. But I am rough around the edges. Will always be infantry. It's what shaped me. It's what molded me. It's who I am today. For the good, for the bad. Can't change it. Don't want to change it. For me, I always try to figure out the balance between empathy and determination, if that makes sense. I'm determined to make this YouTube thing work, so I'm not going anywhere. So if you see my video now, you're gonna see me a year from now, continuing to move on. Hopefully the videos get better. What is Infantry Mindset for those that don't know? Infantry Mindset is just a mentality. Mentality that when things are hard, you push on. Mentality that when you fail, you keep going. A mentality that you believe anything's possible. Hard work. You don't want anything given to you. I don't take handouts, never will. A lot of pride, a lot of integrity. I think everyone has an infantry mindset if you could just think that way. But you can learn to have an infantry mindset. It doesn't have to be a military thing. If you go in the military and join the infantry, they'll teach you how to have that mindset pretty quickly though. So it's like a college course on how to get it fast. Maybe as a civilian, you already have it, you just don't know it. If you're that hustler that started out cutting grass and now you have your own business, that's an infantry mindset. If you're that person that got fired and then got back up and got a better job, you've got an infantry mindset. You're someone that protects your family, loves your kids, have your beliefs, you've got an infantry mindset. Scary but good time to be alive. Feeling blessed today. family, friends, children. Man, God is great. God is so great. We need to say that more often. Though, if you find any value in this, or you look at this old bald guy and, you know, he's rambling, talking about halfway military stuff, halfway his opinions. If you can relate to what I'm trying to do, if you can see the passion that I have in my country and the views and my opinions I say, just give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a comment.
None of them. Excuse me. Our biggest guest, I've been corrected, Miss Madam Vice President.
Thank
Kamala.
you. It is so good to
Thank
be
you for
with
sitting down with
guys.
us. Thank you for having us in your home. We're excited to be here.
Thank you both. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you do me great honor to be here. Thank you.
In 2013, a blind date with your now husband, Doug. If you think back to that date and now we're here, did you ever imagine this was going to be the journey?
No, I just have a really bossy best friend.
It was a blind date, right?
It was a blind
Okay.
date. And she called me up because she and her husband met him and got to know him. And then she just decided that this could work. And said to me, just go out with him once. Don't Google him, just go out with him.
Don't Google him.
And it turned out she was right.
It was a good choice.
I am in a very happy marriage. I'm very thankful.
So
to say.
where'd you guys go? Did you really eat, or did you just do a salad? Like, did you really
We
let
did.
your hair
out,
down and have fun?
Out. So he came to pick me up.
Okay. What kind of car?
A BMW.
Oh, okay. Moving in
But
style.
but here's the thing that was actually really funny in retrospect. I get in the car and he says, I just need to tell you something. And I'm like, okay, what's this gonna be? And he said, I'm a really bad driver.
Give you the heads up, huh? Yes.
I mean, first of all, loyalty as a general matter in life, I think is one of the most important. Growing up, my mother used to say, you got to have a code.
Got to. Something. Got to stand for something.
And you figure out what your code is. But loyalty, and then loyalty to your team, right? I mean, no, but
this
like
is fancy.
Yeah,
They got
you
the
know,
emblem on it and everything, huh?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, look at this. Hey, feel like some presidential water right here. As you were saying, excuse me.
You gotta be loyal to your team. Like my husband and I have different teams.
Is he from the Bay too?
Well, he's originally from Jersey,
Okay.
but he moved to LA when he was a teenager. So most of his fans are LA teens.
Okay.
And so, you know, depending on who's playing who and what time of the year it
real.
is, it's very like it's really real, like talking some serious
got to.
smack.
Yeah. I grew up Italian mom, Black dad, and was always very proud of my heritage until an incident I had in high school when I was 17, protecting my little sister. Someone called her some names. I did what the big brother did. I ended up getting in trouble, and the KKK came and vandalized, nearly burned down my high school. And I knew at that point, although I was very proud to be Italian and Black, that the world looked at me as a Black man. You've always been secure in your identity, who you are, but what do you feel or what do you think when you hear people kind of questioning just the fabric of who you are?
Well, one, I don't listen to it. I'm really clear about who I am, and if anybody else is not, they need to go through their own level of therapy. That's not my issue.
Their issues, right?
My mother was very clear. She was raising two Black girls to be two proud Black women, and that was never. It was never a question. You know, it's funny because over the years, journalists, some, not most, will want to talk about it. And I say, okay, if you want to have this conversation, I'm prepared to have it, but sit down and get comfortable for a few hours. If you want to start talking about race in America, you want to talk about the 1/8 rule? You want to talk about what it means in terms of who you are perceived to be and the impact that can have on the rest of your life, regardless of who you actually are in terms of your God-given capacity and the rights that you have.
Yeah, am I the only one that when I hear her say that her mother made it clear she was raising two Black women, I thought her mother was Indian. That's very confusing to me. And she's bringing up the 1/8 rule. That's interesting.
And should have. So, you know, I don't mess with that. I think that's other people trying to figure some stuff out that and they
got some issues.
They got to deal with it. I love to cook. And it's a way for me to I think it's just for me, it's a great gift I can give the people I love, but it's also, it's like I start out, I know what I'm going to make, and then I'm done and I can give it to people. And it just gives me something to do that is a productive use of time. And I
Economy,
think,
small business, Black business. We actually just started our business in January. So we've grown from a show to a whole entire company. What is your economic
That's
plan
wonderful.
moving forward for people who are living paycheck to paycheck and
Yeah.
struggling for groceries and rent and homeowners?
So look, I grew up, so my sister and I were raised by our mother. We lived for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center. That child care center was actually owned by a woman who lived 2 doors down from us, Mrs. Shelton, who was, by all of our accounts and feelings, our second mother. She helped raise us. And so she was a small business owner. So I'll start with the small business, and congratulations on
Thank
what you
you.
guys have
Thank
done.
you.
I, from a child, knew who our small business owners are, right? I mean, you're business leaders, but you're also civic leaders. You take seriously your voice and how you can mentor, how you can grow, right? Communities and the sense of communities. I love our small businesses. And so a lot of my work in terms of building and growing the economy has focused on small businesses. Um, and my vision overall is we need to build an opportunity economy in which we increase opportunity for all, including small business owners. So a lot of my work, even in the Senate, was about increasing access to capital through our small businesses, and in particular through our community banks.
Mhm.
So I've been responsible for billions of dollars more now going into our community banks, because they're in the community and then they know who's in the community and
Who's
where
doing
the
the good in the
talent is and
community.
who's doing good in the community,
Mhm.
what the community wants.
Mhm.
And so part of my plan as president is to give small businesses, startups, a tax deduction of $50,000 to start up. Because right now the tax deduction is
Can't do
$5,000.
nothing with that.
That's exactly right.
Mm-mm.
And see, the thing we know is that most of our small business, our entrepreneurs who want to start a small business, got a great idea, have incredible work ethic, but they weren't handed a bunch of money on a silver tray.
Right.
And they just need to get their foot in the door.
So tonight, an interview with Vice President Harris will air during an election special of 60 Minutes. She spoke with Bill Whitaker about her economic plan for Americans. Here's a quick preview.
It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes,
How are you going to get this through Congress?
when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses.
For more on this, let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Aaron Navarro. What's great about 60 Minutes, Aaron, is that Bill Whitaker gets the follow-up question and keeps pressing for specifics from these candidates, does not let them just speak about their talking points. What more should we expect from this interview?
Harris appearing on the hugely popular podcast Call Her Daddy today. It is one of the most listened to podcasts among women. It focused a lot on reproductive rights. Her interview did. I can play a clip. Let's listen to it.
At a rally in Pennsylvania, former President Trump recently told women, "You will be protected and I will be your protector." What do you make of that?
So he who, when he was president, hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did just as he intended. And there are now 20 states with Trump abortion bans, including bans that make no exception for rape or incest, which we just discussed, which means that you're telling a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body, they don't have a right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral. So this is the same guy that is now saying that. This is the same guy who said that women should be punished for having abortions. This is the same guy who uses the kind of language he does to describe women. So Yeah, there you go.
It's a month until Election Day. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris are now ramping up their push to reach voters. Aaron Gilchrist is traveling with the former president in battleground Wisconsin. Aaron, good evening.
Hallie, good evening. The former president spoke before a crowd of thousands here in Wisconsin. He almost immediately attacked Vice President Harris on the stage here before turning his attention to the economy and encouraging his supporters here to take advantage of early voting options. Vice President Harris today launching a media blitz with an appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast. She'll continue that effort this week with appearances on 60 Minutes, The View, and the Town Hall for Univision. Hallie?
Donald Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania. Remember, this was the site of the first assassination attempt against him. And while there, he spoke to his supporters about the attack.
12 weeks ago, we all took a bullet for America, and all we are all asking is that everyone goes out and votes. And all of this will be for nothing if you don't get out and vote.
CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi was there during the first assassination attempt. You returned to cover this rally, which I know is emotional and difficult for you and the team. You've written about that on cbsnews.com. But for our viewers watching, explain the atmosphere, the difference in atmosphere, I guess, on President Trump's return to Butler.
Yeah, good to be with you, Errol. The atmosphere change was palpable. It was a lot more solemn. There were sections of the pre-program that honored Corey Comparator, who's the firefighter who passed away during the first assassination attempt. He was shot and ultimately passed away after that. So it certainly had a solemn feel to it. And Donald Trump's return was meant to be triumphant, but certainly you could feel the heaviness in the air around it. There was a certain gravity to the moment of Trump returning. And that was the point that the campaign was trying to make. This was a crowning achievement, a crowning rally that they were trying to hold that day. It was one of the larger crowds that I've seen Trump have at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, the second time around. Certainly had a moment to it, a amount of heaviness to returning to Butler.
Holding a rally in the battleground state of Wisconsin. And with just 30 days until the election, both candidates are campaigning hard in the crucial swing states that will decide the next president. Yesterday, Trump returned for a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of his first assassination attempt. There, he was also joined on stage by billionaire Elon Musk. And at that event, Trump honored the victims of the shooting, but he also suggested, without evidence, that his political rivals may have tried to kill him. CNN's Steve Contorno joins us now from today's rally in Wisconsin. Steve, what is Trump talking about today? As I understand, it sounds like he's taking the stage.
All that stuff. Yeah, he's speaking right now, just behind me, Omar. Donald Trump picking up right where he left off, criticizing the Biden-Harris administration for the response to Hurricane Helene in North Carolina and Georgia. He's continuing to spread what some have said are baseless attacks about the response from FEMA. But other than that, it's been pretty standard Trump rally fare. He's been criticizing the administration's immigration policies, attacking Vice President Harris's competence. He said, quotes, "I've been on a mission to rescue our country and to give you back the country that you live in, the country you were born in." He said nothing will stop him, quote, "not even in the face of death," clearly referencing the multiple assassination attempts on his life. Now, he's delivering this message in Dodge County, Wisconsin. It's one of dozens of small rural counties in this state where his campaign is hoping to run up the score in this election. He won this county by about a 2-to-1 margin last time, and his campaign has been working aggressively to match that margin. And if you look at the polling in this state, you understand why they are concerned. He is the latest poll from Marquette shows this race at 52-48, with Harris having the slight edge. Donald Trump is working hard to reverse that. He has been here 4 times in the last 9 days, and I expect he'll be here quite a bit more, Omar.
Governor Tim Walz with a rare interview appearance yesterday. He made his Sunday show debut on Fox News Sunday. Anchor Shannon Bream challenged him on his track record in his state of Minnesota, specifically on the programs there that give illegal immigrants privileges and taxpayer-funded freebies.
Why should your taxpayers in Minnesota or across the states pay for those programs?
Well, that's not the vice president's position, but I will say this. Minnesota ranks as a top 5 business state. We rank as a top 3 state for children living, and we're the top state for healthcare access.
Shannon also asked him about his history of misstatements on his military service, his wife using IVF, and more. Here's how he responded.
And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage everyone, the personal attacks. I will own up when I misspeak. I will own up when I make a mistake.
It's so sad that he doesn't know his own set of facts on that IVF, right? Somebody told him that, so he repeated it. But Donald Trump has talked about supporting IVF many, many times. Ben Domenech, Fox News contributor and the Spectator's editor at large. I mean, if you want to just take what they feed you, I guess you could feast off of that. I'm a little hungrier than that, though. And I know you are.
You know, Governor Walz can't really get away with calling these things misstatements or misspeaking because we can see what they actually are. When you are consistently telling people false stories about yourself, about your family, about your military history, and about your policies, and in every sense, in every instance, you are positioning yourself in a way that proves to your political advantage or that you believe will play better than what the truth is, it's only moving in one direction. It's not like he's stumbling over his words. It's not a stutter. He's lying to us, and we can see that he's lying to us. And when he gets called on it, instead of owning up to his mistakes, he tells additional lies, or he reframes the subject in ways that don't respond to any of the questions. That question about the way that these freebies are handed to illegal immigrants in Minnesota is a major issue. And yet, because he doesn't have any defense about that plays in any real way, instead he just shifts to saying that, oh, Minnesota's a great state. And that, I think, is something that the American voter sees through now. They see that he's not just being inauthentic about his personal life story, about his military history, et cetera, but also about his policies. And Harris, I think one of the areas where we see this so clearly is the simple fact that when it comes to him being challenged by Shannon, and I'm very glad that she brought this up, on the extremist nature of Minnesota's policies when it comes to abortion, his response is to say, oh, that's been debunked at every turn. When in fact, it hasn't. In fact, even places like CNN, even places like the Dispatch, even fact checkers that are not considered to be, particularly right-leaning, have called out the fact that that he is lying about Minnesota's policies and how extreme they are.
All right, what up, world? What do we think? What do we think, man? First, I want to say I hope everyone's having a blessed day. God is great. Life is great. Beautiful Monday here in the great state of Texas. Chugging along. What are we doing? Keeping our foot on the gas. What are we doing? We're keeping our foot on the gas, right? Continuing to educate, understand, continuing to do our due diligence, our research. Found a couple cool topics today. Interesting. One, I think, is on Harris. Is she doing a lot of softball interviews? Honestly, I don't think I've laughed that hard in a long time after watching Saturday Night Live's performance. I thought that was spot on. Really enjoyed it. I think that's what we need more in the world, to joke around a little bit, right? Get a little bit of laughter out. It was funny for both parties. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you guys watched it. Put in the comments what you thought about it. Some of the stereotypes, I think it's pretty cool that they kind of went through that. But as far as the Harris softball interviews, what I'm seeing a lot of, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have our talking points. I understand that, but there's a lot of just really, I thought it was interesting talking about, how does she adapt to some of the questions, questioning, her background, her parents. I mentioned earlier, Candace Owens did a great article, like a 5-part series, just going into her lineage. And right now, I don't think they can find any black in her lineage. It's a lot of Indian and European. It's convenient. I feel like it was interesting when she said, my mother made it very clear she was raising 2 black women, and her mother's 100% Indian. So I thought that was very, very interesting. When she was asked about the economy, she kind of went back towards her growing up and being in the middle class. You know, different problems. I think if you just, it sounds good, it's a good talking point, but again, it's I think false resonation. I don't know if that's a word. We're just like we're trying to overly, I guess, emphasize that she's one of us. I think that's just a lot of just overdoing it, right? I don't judge. I never looked at any of our presidential candidates and said, you know what, they were, 5 years ago, they were out here struggling just like us. It doesn't. For me, it's more about, okay, what are the policies, what are the procedures, what are you guys putting in place that's going to help the average American? It was less about, whether or not I felt like she grew up in a small house or a big house. And I feel like if we're still judging people that way, it's pretty sad. You demonize someone for having a lot of money, and then you over sympathize with someone that doesn't have anything. And somewhere you find out that the answer to problems is, you tax people that make more money and you give handouts to people that make, far less. And I think, just coming from or just having a conservative background and just understanding that, hard work, dedication, that infantry mindset, that is what really separates us. Doesn't matter where you come from, anyone can overcome anything in 2024. It's just how bad do you want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And I think what the American people want more of is they want less handouts, they want more opportunities. And I'm not talking about an opportunity economy that gives you tax credits. I'm talking about more opportunities for us, for the middle class, for the hardworking average American, for the, you know, the American, for the people that are struggling check to check, more opportunities for them to build something and get out of their, current state. And I think that is what I failed to see through Kamala so far. Our Vice President Kamala Harris. It's interesting though because I think that we've got less than 30 days now. Very important decision coming up, and I feel like at this point, all I hear about in the polls is how Harris is now up in everything. She's just kind of taking the lead, and a lot of false advertising, a lot of media, and I feel like at this point we just really need to be very vigilant in how we feel and what we want. And I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence. Don't just look at the talking points. Man, I research. I show you guys these videos and the clips and stuff that I'm looking at just to kind of get a viewpoint of like what's out there, what are people talking about. But man, I read newspaper articles, I go online, I look at policies, I look at statistics, I try to see because I'm not biased to a point where if somebody is doing something that is just going to very much hurt the American people, I'm very much against any of that. I don't care what party, I don't care where you come from. I'm against it. I don't feel like Harris is doing anything in this new regime that's changing from what our President Biden has done the last 3.5 years. And I feel like Trump has some really good opportunities, really good thought process. He's got some good people behind him that I think that they can really make a change and get our economy back on track. And I think major businesses realize that too. And I think that for the most part, the majority of businesses, the majority of the hardworking Americans, the majority of the military, they are supporting Trump. And I think that the media covering the other way, saying that, Harris is somehow on top, and they always make it very close, 52-48. It's like 49-51 Harris. It's like, I don't believe it. I actually think it's a lot less support for Harris. I think a lot of the young generation, they can be fooled by the media coverage and celebrities, and maybe they are leaning towards Harris, but the majority of people, I would say 30 plus, that really have a good understanding about, how our economy works and, what we've been through the last 3.5 years. I think they're supporting Trump. And, at the end of the day, we gotta make America great again. How do I feel about Walz? I thought SNL was perfect. He's like an old teacher. He kind of just like makes up stuff on the fly. He doesn't really sound too confident. He doesn't want to really adhere to the facts, or it's a lot of talking points. I think they literally tell him what to say and he says it. And at the end of the day, who wants the United States to become a Minnesota? I've never heard anybody in my life say, man, I got to move to Minnesota. They just have so many great opportunities and their policies are so great. And I haven't, and shout out to the people that live in Minnesota. I'm not saying anything bad, but just like, Texas is not becoming a Minnesota. If Texas becomes a Minnesota, then I'll have to find another state to live in. So, that's my feeling on what he's been doing so far. But I'd love to hear your comments, your views, your opinions. Give me an idea. How was your weekend? What'd you guys do during the weekend? Are you all putting up your election signs? Are you all posting who you're voting for? Are you wearing your red hats? Are you wearing your Kamala hats? I guess I don't know what she's got going on. Give me some thoughts. How is it being received in your city? I mean, everywhere I go out with my hat, man, I get plenty of compliments. And shout out to everybody that's seen me out in Texas and said, you know what, man, I really like your hat. Makes me feel good to know that people do appreciate genuine conservative values, and they do appreciate me having the thought process and the understanding to realize that now in 2024, we need to really make sure that the people that are like-minded know that they have support. If you found any value in this episode, please like, share, subscribe, leave me your comments, leave me your views, let me know what you think. Until the next episode of Infantry-Mindset, where we don't make excuses, we just do it. God bless. Have a good day.
You will feel fatigue. You will feel fear. You will feel happiness. You will feel regret. You will feel sadness. At the end of the day, you will continue to breathe fire. Good to go. Okay, with that said, you will take the operational instinct, and here's what I tell you to do, and it's almost one of those impossible tasks, but you got to fight for it every day. You got to use that operational instinct, and you got to know what happens before it happens. You got to stay methodical on the field. You got to stay clear-headed on the field. You got to work any resource as required to move like this, move methodical, and ensure you always have mutual support in position to effect the fight and bring fires as required to fucking kill the enemy. Kill the enemy! Kill the enemy! Kill the enemy! Gonna go!